Google is turning to nuclear energy to keep up with the demands of artificial intelligence.
I've been talking to a lot of innovators, a lot of tech innovators. They're all talking about how much energy that we need in the race to AI.
To purchase electricity from 7 small modular nuclear reactors, which still need to be built.
EPA has reportedly drafted a plan to eliminate all limits on greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. That's according to documents recently obtained by the New York Times.
Being involved in nuclear energy, I'm just fascinated in the subject, and so, yeah, thank you for coming.
We need to go full speed on reactor licensing, construction, deployment, and all those reactors need fuel.
What happens if we don't advance and AI sucks up that much energy, but in 5 years?
We can triangulate truth. We don't have to rely on just one news broadcast and believe the TV because we found the TV is lying to us. But now those that understand that information is the most powerful weapon in the human race, that the most lethal weapon is right between your ears. And if I can influence what's going on between your ears in what you see is true and what reality is, I can shape that so that you act in my best interest.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along.
We will become victims to others that use space as a way of dominating the energy market, but also the information market. Microsoft announced their quantum computing capability, which is just next level. They need to cool it down to 80 millikelvin. There's really no way to cool it efficiently down to that level. Helium-3 can do it like that. China now has enough helium-3 as they're mining it on the moon and bringing it back to Earth to be able to power the entire world for thousands of years. And they are the ones that can actually operationalize quantum because they can cool it down to the temperature it needs to actually operate.
Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build.
Our government tells us stories about what is true, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, here's why your tax money needs to go to this.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
And we all believe it because we love our country and we don't want to be at war and we don't want insecurity. We want peace, prosperity, and health for us and everybody on the planet.
Right, and it's interesting the government subsidizes it. Why would the government want to subsidize something that's going to make people sick?
That is a direct result of corruption.
But there are perverse incentives for big companies and governments to weave a tale that deceives the population to perpetuate the wealth, control, and security of a very small group of people that are getting rich on the current methodology. One of the reasons they don't move forward is the bureaucratic and the statutory administrative state that thinks it knows better than you and is getting rich off the lobbyists and the companies and the money into the coffers of the election system to perpetuate the way things were.
All of the energy companies would be totally against beaming energy down from space because that unhooks you from the utilities.
Well, here's the reason.
This gets rid of power plants. This gets...
It turns...
It's even just an eyesore.
That's right.
I mean, it's all in space. You can't see it.
Yeah. The legislation that President Trump championed to get a Space Force written into law will be the wedge in history that protects America.
Concorde 002 is clear takeoff, and good luck, gentlemen.
Congress pulled the plug, appropriately, on the American supersonic airplane. Back then, just how economically dead on arrival Concorde was going to be. So then America responded trying to protect Boeing by banning supersonic flight over land.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. This
was to protect Boeing?
This was protectionism. One of my controversial opinions is that Concorde killed supersonic flight.
It wasn't too bad. I think we arrived about a quarter of a second early.
After a 22-minute flight, Concorde 002 landed safely at the Royal Air Force Airfield at Fairford in Gloucestershire, the British base for Concorde flight operations.
Never should have existed. And Apollo killed space exploration. It also should not have gone to the moon in 1969. And a lot of people, and I loved Concorde and I loved Apollo, but I don't think they helped us. Notice it's 2025, and we can't fly supersonic, and we can't land on the moon.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
We were told in the 1960s where the harbingers of great progress didn't pan out the way it was predicted. So why?
After years of careful study and dedicated attention to detail, here was another thrilling and rewarding climax for the thousands of men and women working in the factories of British Aircraft Corporation and Sud Aviation.
And I think the answer is that for the first 50 years, from the Wright brothers forward, innovation in aerospace was commercially driven. It was you building a commercial airplane that passengers got to be able to afford to fly on, that airlines want to operate profitably. Nobody build a machine unless they at least believed it was going to make economic sense. There was a Soviet project to create a supersonic airliner. There was a European project to create a supersonic airliner, and there was an American project to create a supersonic airliner called the SST. And in all three cases, they were government funded and they were government spec'd.
Chinese state-owned aircraft company Comac unveiling a new plan for a supersonic jet set to blast through the skies 50 times faster than Western-made Concorde.
So 100 seats, $20,000 a ticket, and then so it was actually the company that deep-sixed it. Wasn't the regulations.
The American airplane was going to be 300 seats in Mach 3, so it made even less economic sense than Concorde did.
And so, how fast are planes flying today?
Just it's 75 to 85% of the speed of sound today on a Boeing or Airbus. If you got a high-end private jet, you can go a little bit faster.
Do you feel that when you're in the jet?
The one thing you'll notice when you go supersonic is it's slightly smoother.
It almost seems like a David versus Goliath story. I mean, you're going up against Boeing and Airbus. I mean, at the beginning when Elon started SpaceX, that got laughed out everywhere. Now he can successfully launch every single day of the week if he wanted to.
It's interesting because China is trying the same thing and they're not facing that kind of regulation, obviously. Why is this so important in an arms race with China?
Like I said, you're an outsider from the industry. You have 130 orders. I think there's a lot of speculation if a company of your size is going to be able to do those deliverables in the amount of time allotted. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, it's David and Goliath, but Goliath is like asleep. We went to go do something that nobody was doing. And if we get the right people and we give it our all, either we succeed or it's because we fumbled the ball ourselves.
Will a lot of them be using nuclear? Some are using oil and gas, some are using different things. But
many of them will be, I think.
It just makes a lot of sense.
Nuclear is a perfect solution, and that's where most of them are interested.
Starting a couple years ago, the common refrain from every nuclear reactor company was, we don't have a source of fuel. We need this more enriched fuel, enriched to 20%, because we want to make our smaller reactors. We want to make them in factories. We want to get really low on cost, high quality, low cost, the whole Six Sigma manufacturing strategy. But let's use those concepts and apply them to nuclear reactors. Instead of treating every single one as a bespoke one-off construction project, we're going to factory produce these. So that's pretty much everyone's vision.
Thanks for joining us. How would you describe the environmental impact of these data centers that are at the heart of AI?
Their environmental impact is huge and it's growing.
Go ahead, please.
And I'm Scott Nolan, CEO of General Matter. We're an American enrichment company trying to bring back the U.S.'s lead in producing nuclear fuel. Right now, the U.S. is completely dependent on other countries. And these executive orders are going to pave the way for the U.S. to regain its lead. So we really appreciate it.
They said to pull that off, you've got to make it smaller. You can't build a huge thing, a thing the size of larger than a factory in a factory. You've got to make small things. And so if we're going to make the reactor small, we need more energy dense fuel.
How small are they making these reactors?
So one company that Founders Fund invested in makes a reactor that fits in a shipping container. But our nuclear energy is going to be so cheap, we can afford to do the carbon capture, or we'll co-locate with some industrial process, we'll grab that carbon, and we're going to turn that into a fuel, and that fuel could be used by cars, by airplanes.
What do you mean carbon capture? You mean pulling carbon out of the air?
Yeah, there's a couple of approaches. One is pull it out of the air. People are working on technologies for that.